Born Primitive Outdoor is proud to partner with Montana Knife Company, Marsupial Gear, Evolution Outdoors, Sheep Feet, and Capture Gear. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors. Hello, everyone. This podcast I'm going to be doing by myself, so I do appreciate you tuning in to the Born Primitive Outdoor podcast. I just got back from the Best of the Best tournament, so I had a ton of questions asked me about many different things when I was down there. Tim Gillingham was down there. He and I got to yell at each other for a while about sight leveling. Wanted to cover some of that as well. So yeah, this is kind of a Q&A sort of ish podcast with me thanking a lot of people at the same time. So first, the Best of the Best shoot. I really appreciate all of the support from the sponsors as well as the shooters. Very high demanded tournament for us, and we were able to squeak it in this year, which was good, but we'll do a little bit better job next year, letting everybody know what's going on, things of that nature. But amazing turnout. Everybody obviously walked away with something, and yeah, it was a good shoot. American Bowman does an amazing job. And it was a little bit surreal for me. I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah, probably surreal. So, when I was down there, I got there Friday. I was tired. I haven't been sleeping that very well. And down there, that didn't help either. But got down there and ended up had to get some tattoo work done from Tattoo Tina, who was awesome. Hung out with Luke for a little bit, and then I ran down and stayed with Tony Clem and hung out with them. And honestly, Tony and I went ahead and gave mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to a bottle of whiskey, and we lost her. So I didn't make it back up to Luke's. But one of the reasons why it was kind of surreal is 24 or 5 years ago, Tony Clem is the one that actually taught me how to really shoot a bow. Jerry Rose taught me initially kind of some proper stuff. I think he's back. He lives in maybe Kansas now, or I think he's in Kansas now or Missouri. But Tony is the one that taught me really how to shoot a back tension, a hinge style release, the way that I shoot it, and many other things. And Tony and I used to hang out a lot, work out, jack around with bows. We used to take the limbs off and put plastic shims to change the deflection of the riser and get like 110 pounds out of a limb and shoot like an 18-16 out of it and get like 440 feet per second and blow up the arrow and dumb shit like that. So it was pretty cool. I was staying at his house when I was down there and hanging out with Tanner and Justice and Austin and Cassie, his wife, and Gillingham was down there. So it was cool to stay at his house. I don't get to see him that often. Plus, have him shoot with me, which was awesome. Bill Pellegrino was there. And, I was a knucklehead. Well, I'm still a knucklehead. I was a knucklehead when I was younger, and Bill dealt with that, 20 years ago, and I was starting to shoot tournaments and was a huge help. And both Tony and Bill are amazing shooters. And Bill is one of the most gifted archers you could find as far as very well-rounded. I know he's won Vegas. He's won multiple finger World National Championships, ASAs, IBOs. I don't want to misspeak, but Bill's won a ton of different shit and is one of the most gifted archers you could find, and just a wealth of knowledge. Owns an amazing pro shop down in Colorado Springs. So it's just a good time hanging out with those guys, seeing Bill. And again, I was a jackass when I was younger, and like Bill was the guy to beat, or one of them. And I didn't know that I beat him more than a couple times, maybe, when I was younger. He's just an amazing shot. But to have him, Gillingham, and, Tony come to the tournament, and it was just cool. It was really cool for me. And a lot of friends. Towson Jenkins was there, which was awesome to see, him and many other people, really good people come. And it was great to see him, great support. And then obviously Gillingham was there, and he was giving me crap about sight leveling and all in good fun. I mean, we were even yelling at each other. In fact, it freaked out Cassie, but it was, Tim and I yelling at each other all the time, but Tim has very valid, I say valid points. I mean, obviously they're valid. So a wealth of knowledge in sight leveling and different things. And what it was is I was explaining to him about dealing with the best that the hand that God gave you when you're working on others people's bows. But the sight leveling thing is a huge deal at a tournament like this, because a lot of up and down hills, a lot of footing is, you don't have very level footing, right? It's not like a 3D course at an ASA where everything's fairly flat or whatever now. So a lot of good info there. Highly suggest tune in to anything Tim Gillingham does. He is an opinionated little guy or big guy, but his opinions are have a lot of backing to them. He's one of the greatest archers to ever live. So tune into anything Tim Gillingham has, and hopefully he starts some kind of a course or a school for people to attend. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So thank everyone for tuning in. The friendship, tuning in. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, but also showing up to the shoot, the friendship and the support and everything else. I'm introverted, so I know there's a few times people that ask Luke, like, hey, is Aron mad? I'm just introverted in large groups of people. I'm smiling on the inside. I got resting bitch face like a mother. But no, I was happy. And I think people were wondering probably why I wasn't at Luke's after party for very long. But that's because I was hanging out with Tony Clem and his family. And again, I don't get to see him that often. So I was very excited to have everyone there. Jeff Hairston and Nima. I met Nima in California a few weeks ago. It's one of Jeff Hairston's buddies. Jeff was there, which was really cool to see. Again, Tina and Danny, really good people. If I ever get married again, nobody give me shit. I will probably have Tina or Danny marry us. He's a pastor, which was cool. Have him there for that, and he's just a good guy. That is one thing that was asked of me. I did get divorced several months ago. I don't keep my personal life on social media very much. I don't. A lot of people hang out their dirty laundry and blast other people, whatever else. I don't really do that, but I did get divorced. I guess in October, November time frame. No drama, nothing scandalous. Just whatever. Still, Amy's a great person. No, nothing. Heard a few crazy, weird rumors, but all good. Wish her the best. She's doing great, and that's good. So anyhow, moving on from that stuff. The thing that first was asked, probably the most. I say the most. There's a lot of things asked. One of the things that was asked the most was the 5 fletch. I recently switched to AAE Air Razor 2.3 5 fletch. You need a Bitzenberger jig and the AAE Bits knob to fletch 5 fletch. I don't see me switching from that. I'm really, really liking what I'm getting out of that. There's less wind drag and less noise. I know James Yates, which was probably the second most asked question. James Yates and Easton did an amazing arrow broadhead fletch vein study recently. I'm not overly familiar with everything that went on there, but the 5 fletch I'm really liking. I don't know what Yates and that crew came up with, but I do really like that 5 fletch system. AAE Bits knob and a Bitzenberger is what you need. Fletching those air razors, no problem. The new air razors, you don't have the memory like the old ones, so they're better and less wind drift and less noise is what I'm noticing with that 5 fletch with the 2 3s. My helical's maybe 1 degree. It's not much. Is it the end? Is it life shattering, right? Is it groundbreaking compared to a 2.6 inch, 2 degree helical, offset or 2 degree offset helical? It's not that much difference, but it looks cool and I like it. So anyway, that's what I'm shooting. That's how you do it. And again, everybody's got opinions on that. The next thing that was probably asked about the most was that what I think of this study that Yates and Easton did. I don't know everything that was included in that, right? I'm not sure what all was included in that study. I do know one of the things that was popped up is I am very good friends with Dale at Evolution, and I really like the Hyde and the Jekyll broadhead. People have asked me why I shoot the Jekyll over something like an Iron Will, because an Iron Will, has D2 tool steel, as far as the material, and the Iron Will is an amazing broadhead. The Jekyll is the most accurate, by far, the most accurate fixed blade broadhead I've ever shot. And I mean by a stretch. But I don't tout that as much as I probably should, because usually when I do, people will say something like, well, Dale pays you. And Dale does not pay me any money. Dale and I are friends, and I believe in his product. And when you see me shooting 80, 90 yards and hitting as good as I can shoot dot for dot with all of those broadheads, that does not happen very often in 80. And I've said that for years. And that Jekyll broadhead is, for a fixed blade, is an amazing broadhead. People ask me how I sharpen it. I don't. I swap out the blades. I don't sharpen those broadheads. It's just not worth it to me. I just swap out the blades. I also know the hide did very well, but it has a little bit more drag, which I would agree with, than something like a Sever or a Beast broadhead. There's a little more sticking out of it. But I do know, like, the Evolution broadheads did really well. So next question was the Shadow release, because I bounce around between a Shadow and an Ibex and a Longhorn. Now with the Ibex and the Shadow, those are my hunting releases without a doubt. The Ibex is a hinge style release that is not really audible on the click, which is good for hunting. And the Shadow is its mirror image, which is why it's called the Shadow, but it's a thumb button. And for me, they hit identical. Now, depending upon how short your D-loop is, things like that, that may change slightly, but they're close enough for pretty much everybody that I've talked to. The Shadow release, I was lucky enough, I got to do the prototype testing of it, or some of the prototype testing of it. And for a hunting for any kind of a thumb button, for me hunting, I like to have a thumb button with me, high winds, things like that. So that was the releases I was shooting at the tournament and screwing around with. The thing that people really need to, take into consideration as far as, like, if you're going to shoot a hinge, whether that be Ibex or something else, you do want to do some messing around with it, learn how to adjust it, and stay close at first, and get maybe some help, whether that be on YouTube or call a buddy, because it is a little bit, you can punch yourself in the face pretty quick. Now with the Ibex, that's a hinge, right? That's what I'm talking about. With the Shadow, that is a thumb button release. The thing that's nice about that, there's a few releases that do it, but you can click the release on and leave it, which is really nice. If you got an elk coming in or a whitetail, you leave the release there, grab your rangefinder, release is hooked up. You don't have to re-hook up, and it's extremely quiet. So that's the releases. The next up is I'm kind of, one second, take a drink of water. I just want everybody to know that water is in a Grizzly 140 ounce. I don't know how big this thing is, water bottle. Just kidding. Grizzly really hooks this up and took good care of us at the tournament as well. The backpacks. I was asked a lot about backpacks. Nothing like negative or positive. Just asked, like, not everyone knows I don't work for Kafaro anymore. I work for More Primitive. Kafaro still makes great backpacks. But the testing of the packs, I've been running Mystery Ranch probably more than anything. I did an entire podcast talking about all of this stuff, but I'm using the new Mystery Ranch Mysterium frame. I did not like the frame before that, but the new frame doesn't squeak, and I like the new bags. I really like the Mystery Ranch 6500 back in the 2008, 9, 10, 11 timeframe. The new Marshall is like that bag, but lighter weight with a little better options, in my opinion. And then in the recent, I went with Chris Horn. We went and scouted for elk, went fishing. I was using, I think that was the Beartooth 85. I like that bag as well. It's got more zippers than I need, but anyway, that is what I'm using. And the new frame is the one I'm using. That was asked a lot because a lot of people had issues with the old frame. And it's the new one I'm using. The old one squeaks and had some issues. So, as far as the packs, you can listen to that entire podcast. I kind of went over everything. I did not go over an EXO that much in that podcast just because I hadn't tested one. As I understand the K4 frame, and that system is a very good system, but I have not been able to test those. So next up, the Alpine Pros. I was wearing Laponias, and I understand why I get asked about boots a lot. There's a lot of haters out there, but there's one specifically constantly talking about I switch boots and things like that, and I'm paid or whatever. And I just like to test gear. I'm in a position now where I really don't have to sign up with very many companies or endorsement contracts or whatever. So Zamberlan boots, the 2092 is probably the boot I've worn the most. And it's an amazing boot. Still have 4 or 5 sets of them in the garage, and I'll still continue to wear those. But the Alpine Pro from Crispy is what I've been wearing recently. It's a little bit lower in the ankle, which I prefer. It's had great results so far. When Chris and I were out, we were in swampland a lot, no leaking. They've been durable so far, very comfortable for me. They are a stiffer boot, but the Alpine Pro is what I've been wearing. And then when I was down there, I had Laponias on. I don't wear Laponias in the mountains or anything, but it's a great boot for archery tournaments. Very flexible if you like that kind of boot. The biggest thing with boots is whatever I wear doesn't really matter. It's what fits your foot. So the only thing I can give you is recommendations on what's durable and what I think might fit. And so I have worn Schnee's boots, which have been great. Crispy boots, La Sportiva a little bit, a lot of Hanwag, a lot of Zamberlan. And back in the day, I've worn a ton of Scarpas. The Scarpa changed their waterproof membrane. I don't know if they changed back. That's why I stopped wearing those a while ago. All of those boots are good. All of them have downfalls. When I say that, like Hanwags, I would say are inherently bad about wearing out or shrinking. But the Makra, they got several versions of it. I really got along with that boot well. Again, with the Crispies, the leather brick stall I wore for a while. I liked those, and I did the Mountain SF. Those were good. But again, for me, that Alpine Pro and the Zamberlan 2092 are kind of my mountain hunting boot of choice. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth, right? I like testing a lot of footwear. If I don't test a lot of footwear, I really can't tell you if they're durable or not, right? So, you know, there's no boot company that's going to pay me every 3 months and swap out for another boot company and pay me every 3 months. When I speak of these boots, they are good boots. I've had good luck with them. If you have a question about a boot, DM me. I'm not going to bash anything publicly. I'll let you know my opinion of a boot if it's bad privately, because it's not like the company's purposefully putting out bad footwear, right? If there's one boot that may not be as durable as another, that's going to happen. And when I say that, if you go with an ultra lightweight boot, don't bitch because it falls apart. It's ultra lightweight. And if you go with a really stiff boot, it rubs your heels. That's not the boot's fault. The boot just didn't fit you. And stiff boots are inherently bad about heel rub if they don't fit you correctly. So just keep that in mind. Now, Born Primitive, what's going on with that? That's going very well. We're growing like crazy, which is good. We do have more products coming out soon in July, hopefully. We do have Mossy Oak Bottomland coming out in multiple different pieces. We have new jackets coming out, new pants, things like that. We're working on stuff all the time like any company is. But it's been great over there and a great team. So that's going really well. And I appreciate people asking me and worrying about, not worrying, but just asking in how that's going with the switch. One sec, taking some more water in. So the next thing that was asked a lot was about just not the tournament arrows, but the like elk hunting arrows, things like that. I get a ton of questions about the weight, arrow weight, or whatever. And the thing is when you can ask. I'm going to use Sam Davis for an example. Sam Davis is a killing machine, an amazing hunter. He lives here in Wyoming. I think Sam Davis shoots 80 pounds with a 420 grain arrow and has killed everything many times over. Gillingham, he doesn't necessarily count when I say that because his draw length is so long. Gillingham likes a light arrow, a faster arrow. Me, I'm more happy medium. I'm in that 280, kind of always have been, 265 to 285 speed range. You know, I don't like super heavy. I don't like super light. I like it happy medium. The thing is accuracy, and this is something that Gillingham does going off the deep end. Accuracy is key. Now, if you're already accurate and you can shoot a speed bow, then it makes sense to shoot an extremely fast bow because of the accuracy and yardage estimation. But if you're not that accurate, a speed bow is inherently harder to shoot. And so, again, I hunted with a 37-inch bow for 2 years and was very happy with it, shooting 268 feet per second and killed a lot with that bow. You know, so again, stuff to keep in mind. But when you look at, you know, putting an arrow through an animal, you can shoot a mechanical broadhead with a 440 grain arrow without issue. No problem whatsoever. It's just... I think that people get overly consumed with worrying, and I totally get that. But if you're shooting a 440 grain arrow at 270 to 300 feet per second at an elk, if you hit it in the right spot, within reason, 1.5 inches, a hide, 1.5 inches sever, it's going to kill the elk. I mean, it without a doubt will kill the elk. It's when you hit it badly is where the rubber kind of meets the road. For the most part, mechanical or fixed blade, if you hit it in a bad spot in the scapula, it's really not going to matter what is on the end of your arrow. And people will say, I heard of a guy, shoot a 650 grain arrow or whatever. Well, if you do that, and let's say it does help go through the scapula, you're also inherently like swaying hard to inaccuracy of yardage estimation if it's off, because you're shooting so slow. So it's just a matter of what you are comfortable with and what you want to do. Again, I've shot that 280. I mean, I did the speed thing for a little bit 15 years ago, maybe 20, a long time ago. If you're happy with a 465 grain arrow going 288 feet per second, or you're happy with a 410 grain arrow going 310, that's what makes you happy. That's what I would go with. But my suggestion personally is try to shoot, a minimum for elk hunting of a 450 grain arrow, somewhere around 265 to 295 feet per second. The speed thing comes with tuning. It's a little bit easier to tune an arrow that's at 280 compared to one going 310. But then you get into the mechanical versus fixed thing. So again, you always got to pay the tollman. And when I say that, if you're shooting really fast, you don't have to be as accurate with yardage estimation, but might be a little bit harder for you to tune, might be a little bit more critical. Not might be, it will be a little bit more critical. Definitely going to be a louder bow. So do what you feel most comfortable with. And if that's emulating someone like myself, do that and rub some funk on it and proceed forward. If that's emulating someone like a Levi, a Sam Davis, a Tim Gillingham, then do that. A lot of people hunt with lighter arrows and they have great success with that. So do what is most comfortable with you. But I will say, if you're not overly accurate, accuracy is the most important thing. Learn to shoot, learn what's going on with that. And if you have really bad dip bangs, if you have, you shoot high a lot, if the stabilization part of it, again, the shorter brace height, it's not as big of a deal now. Shoot a more forgiving bow, because if you can't hit the animal, it doesn't really matter how fast you're shooting or how heavy. Just work on accuracy. So take another drink here. All right, so that's enough about that. Sights got asked about a lot when I was down there. I had a proof sight on my bow, which is what I'm shooting this year. The sight's great. The leveling portion of it, the durability portion of the sights, not the proof, all of them. What is the best hunting sight? I really like sights that are durable. I've had problems with sights breaking, and I would say Spot Hog is going to be the most durable sight. You look at something like the Landslide from Trueball, it's amazingly accurate, but it's not overly durable. So again, that's something that you're going to have to look at. So for me, durability is huge. When I say that, easy to level for third axis, that's very important. I say easy. The ability to even level the damn thing, some of them are hard, some of them are harder to level than others. The third axis, and again, check out everything Tim Gillingham has, or Hamsky, on leveling your sight. Very important for second and third axis. So with sights, do you shoot a 7-pin, 5-pin, or 3-pin? Do you shoot a 7-pin static, a 7-pin mover, a 5-pin static, a 5-pin mover? So for me, 4 to 6-pin mover. I used to shoot a 7-pin mover. I've just found now I don't have to worry about that as much. So like right now, a 5 or 6-pin mover is good for me, 20 through 60. So that I have a 20-yard pin to a 60-yard pin. And then my 60 is my dial, my rover. And so my bottom pin is my rover, or my whatever you want to call it. That's my God pin, whatever you want to call that. My bottom pin when I dial is the one I'm dialing to 60, 65, 68, 72, 104, whatever, is my 60-yard pin. I also, in reverse, I use that bottom pin at 43, 41, 37, whatever it is. The way that I set mine up, because if I roll up on something, I have a technical shot, I'm over the top of it, and it's 37, and I've got a pin gap and I've got time, I will dial that to 37 and use that bottom pin to be more accurate. And I did that at the tournament on some of the shots. So that's what I do. 5-pin with a rover. I do not use anything for sighting my bow in other than me, myself, and I, a spotting scope, and hopefully accuracy. So I just sight my bow from 20 to 120, and I match a sight tape up to it. I don't look at anything else. So I sight in my pins 20 through 60, and then I put, when I do 20 through 60, as far as my standard pins, I get those dialed in first, and then I start dialing 70, 80, 90, 100, and then I go backwards and I sight in 50, 40, 30, and 20 with my 60-yard pin, and I match up everything to that as far as on a sight tape. That's what I do. So if you're going to hunt out west, shoot at least 3 pins. 5 is better. Unless if you're yelling it, like if you're Henry Ferguson saying I'm dumb, I'm just kidding. Henry doesn't say that. He's an amazing person. Henry shoots a 1 pin. He's very accurate with that. Unless you're already shooting a 1 pin and very good at it, I would not suggest shooting a single pin for hunting. I can tell you on a guide perspective, when I see a single pin, I'm nervous, right? As far as ranging in and adjusting the sight and everything else. So 3 for sure, 5 is even better, 7 if you don't get confused. So next up was asked a lot was about lighted nocks, which I didn't expect. There's no perfect lighted nock. They all suck in some way. There is really no perfect lighted nock for a micro, for a 166. They're not very durable. You can have point of impact issues out of the blue, meaning you can throw a nock in and have a point of impact issue. They all weigh a little bit different. They certainly don't all weigh the same as your standard nock. I shoot AAE, what are they, IP nocks. But you can work around that, right? If you shoot closer, it's not as big of a deal. But you definitely, if you get lighted nocks, want to set a couple aside to confirm, where you're at as far as just sighting in and the point of aim, point of impact difference. But halo is the nock. If a gun to my head, that's the one I would be shooting, is a halo nock. I have a bunch of them out there. But for me, for mountain hunting, I'm not going to be shooting a lighted nock. It's just not worth it. Close range, whitetail, they're great. I've had issues where I'll grab one of a package. I'll order a package, 10 packages of them or whatever. And I'll wing one out there and I'll hit 1.5 feet low. And, it's like out of the, like, what the hell? So I just, and again, they do break easy. So just something to think about. So, I'm talking a lot here. So with the lighted nocks and the fletching and whatever, the biggest thing that you want to also think about with this, when you're looking at a bow setup, a lot of people, I talked about the speed and everything else, the short axle to axle brace height, longer axle to axle, all of the different things that come into play with what's most comfortable for you, higher speed, lower speed. All companies make really good bows, right? Whether that be, I don't shoot Matthews a lot. Matthews makes great bow. For me, I like a 33, preferably longer, to 35-inch long hunting bow that IBO somewhere around 330 to 350. 340 is perfect. String angle, depending upon the size of the cam, how it crosses my face is important. But setting up that bow is very important as far as tuning and things of that nature. So the tune of the arrow is what I'm leading up to here. Gillingham was talking about, shooting each arrow through paper. That's one thing nice with 5-fletch. You can just keep indexing infinitely. Not going to have an issue. But when you're going to tune, do you shoot through paper with a bare shaft? Do you shoot through paper with a fletched arrow? Do you bare shaft tune? I will occasionally wing a bare shaft arrow through paper, but generally I'm tuning with my fletches on. I'll just shoot a bare shaft if I blow a vein off or whatever. I'll just strip them all off and see where it hits. But just because a bare shaft is flying good through paper does not mean your broadheads necessarily, especially a fixed blade, are going to hit the same. And so when you're going to tune, for me, I go 10 feet back from the paper, give or take. That's where I shoot my arrows through the paper, tune accordingly with the fletches on, with a field point in it. Then, I get all the bows sighted in like we're talking about. I'll shoot, get everything sighted in. Then I'm going to shoot my field point and a broadhead mechanical. Then I'm going to also shoot a fixed blade. I'm going to do that out to 60. If all those hit the same out to 60, it's a victory, right? Anything farther than that is a bonus. And when I say that specifically, fixed blades. But one of the conversations I had when I was down there, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, mechanicals do not always hit, especially, when I say that some of the fixed blade, like a hide, can have a little more drag at longer distance than other mechanicals. So you want to make sure and check that. But a fixed blade broadhead, if you get it to hit out to 80, anything beyond that is a miracle, and something might be wrong. I can't say it can't be done. It just doesn't happen very often, right? And so when you're tuning, get your bow tuned, standing at 10 feet through the paper with fletches. Make sure it's perfect. Then go outside, shoot at 20 with a broadhead and 20 with a field point, and then do it at 40. If they're hitting at 20 and 40 perfectly, and then they're hitting at 20 and 50 perfectly, but then you say that 20 and 70, it's really bad, that's not really possible, which is kind of where all this is leading up to. If your broadheads are hitting good at 40, other than wind drag hitting low, which can happen if it's left and right, it's not the broadhead. If they're shooting 20 to 40, 20 to 50, something, and you're hitting like a foot right at 80 with your broadhead, you may be fading through the peep, things like that. If it's perfect at 20 to 40 and 50, it doesn't just go bad out there. It can't just, at 40 decide it sucks. Now, you can get, at longer distances, maybe some more, a little more planing or whatever. Obviously, that's, physics, right? But your broadhead's not just going to all of a sudden suck at 80. One thing that can happen, though, is imperfections when you build the arrow. And Gillingham said it best. It's not that hard to be a good archer. It's very hard to be a great archer. And so very minute things can make a huge difference. Peep fade is one of them. Fading out of the peep, that's going to be one. Your third axis, or your sight being level, that's going to be another one. Another one is your brain, right? It's your brain getting in the way where you have a fixed blade on or a broadhead on, and then you do something different. You grip the bow a little bit more. You do whatever. That's something else that can happen. So, keep that in mind when you're tuning. But again, 10 feet through the paper, fletched arrows, bullet hole, go outside. If you're shooting out to 40 and your broadheads are hitting a little low or whatever, as long as you're not fading through peep, that's just going to be a micro arrow rest adjustment. And again, you've got Gillingham and Dudley and Levi, things I've done. There's a ton of information out there as far as that goes. So think about that. Next up, and this is only because of the classes we've been talking about, the academy courses. We will be offering academy course in July. I believe it's going to be the 17th through the 21st. Kind of a level 1. We're going to go through land nav, backpack hunting, water filtration, staying overnight, what gear to have, loading your pack, fitting your pack, clothing, layering systems, a ton of different stuff, stalking. So, and we will continue to do these courses through until nobody wants to come to anymore. Price is going to be somewhere around $1,000 to $1,500, depending upon how much of a pain in the butt they are. That is the lowest price we can go, but I promise you, when you walk away after a 3 to 4 day course, $250 a little bit to $500 a day, you will get your money's worth out of that. I promise you, especially if you're having issues or worried about backpack hunting alone, you're having issues stalking animals, you're not sure about land navigation, you're going to know that when you leave these courses. So check it out on my page, the Born Primitive Outdoor page. We'll promote them on there as long as the dates. The next thing is, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know I have one. The amount of people that didn't know I was continued doing podcasts was crazy. So, don't be afraid to share, like, subscribe, share the podcast, watch the YouTube page, the Born Primitive Outdoor YouTube page. There's a ton of info on there, and we're building that up as we go. So that's probably enough for the questions that I had, for right now. But I do, again, want to thank everyone for the support, worrying about me. Again, for the people that are worried about that I was in a bad mood. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think anybody's worried about that. I am smiling on the inside, but I am very grateful for everyone and everything around me. Again, it was surreal having, Tony, Clem, Pellegrino, Gillingham, and Bill Pellegrino. I think I listed him twice. Anyway, all of the people that helped me become the archer and outdoorsman that I am was pretty amazing. Tony drew a mountain goat tag, so I'm able to help him out now, which is great for Colorado, which is cool. Hopefully he gets one. But again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to all of the sponsors that chipped in on the best of the best shoot. It was an amazing shoot, an amazing tournament with really amazing people. So thank all of you. Thank you for tuning in. And I am going to head to the gym now and try to stay unfat. And thanks for tuning in. Sheep Feet is offering an incredible discount in the month of June. Use code BPO to save yourself 25% off on your next purchase.